Before we begin, drop a comment below with your country and what time it is right now where you're watching. Whether it's sunrise in Nairobi, midnight in New York, afternoon in Canada, or evening in France, I want to know. Don't just sit back. Tell me where in the world you are. Now, let's dive into the story. Chapter 1, The Last Sunday. Let me tell you something, baby. Pride will have you standing in a church parking lot crying over a man you were too scared to love. That's exactly where I was that hot June Sunday, mascara running down my face like the Mississippi River, watching Marcus Washington drive away in that white pickup truck for what I thought was the last time. My hands were shaking so bad I had to ball them into fists just to keep them still. The heat was pressing down on me something fierce, but all I could feel was my heart breaking into pieces small enough to slip through my fingers. Marcus had just told me he couldn't do this anymore. Couldn't keep showing up for a woman who wouldn't let him get close. And honey, that's when it hit me like a ton of bricks. I hadn't just been pushing away some man who wanted to fix my car. I'd been pushing away the man who wanted to fix my whole broken heart. For 8 months, that man had pulled into my driveway every single Sunday at 2 p.m. Every single Sunday. Rain or shine, hot or cold, didn't matter. He'd come with his toolbox and his flannel shirt rolled up, showing those strong arms, and he'd fix whatever was wrong with my beat-up Honda. Fixed my transmission when it was slipping, fixed my brake pads when they started squealing like a pig, fixed my radiator when it overheated on I-85 with my babies in the back seat. And you know what I did every time? Thanked him like he was some mechanic I was paying, not a man who was falling head over heels in love with me. I kept my walls up so high God himself couldn't have climbed over them. But now Marcus was gone, and I was standing there realizing I'd spent 8 whole months protecting myself from the one man who actually wanted to stay. Ain't that something? My phone started buzzing in my purse. It was my sister Tanya asking if I was coming to Sunday dinner. I couldn't even look at that message. How was I supposed to sit at Mama's table and pretend everything was fine while she asked about Marcus like he was still coming around? How was I supposed to listen to my brother Derek crack jokes about how I finally found a good man and still managed to mess it up? I walked to my car, that old 2009 Honda Accord with the dent in the passenger door and that check engine light Marcus kept promising to look at. There wasn't going to be a next week now. It was just me in a car falling apart, just like everything else in my life. I sat in that driver's seat, pressed my forehead against the steering wheel, and for the first time in 8 months, I admitted the truth to myself. I was in love with Marcus Washington, and I had figured it out exactly one Sunday too late. My engine turned over on the 3rd try, sputtering and coughing like it had emphysema. I pulled out of that parking lot and headed toward my apartment in the West End, driving past the barbershop where Marcus worked during the week, past the Waffle House where we'd had breakfast one time after he fixed my alternator in the pouring rain, past that Chevron station where he taught me how to check my own oil because he said a woman should know her car like she knows her own heartbeat. Every single block reminded me of him. Every street corner held a memory I'd tried so hard not to make. And now those memories were all I had left to hold on to. I parked in front of my building, one of them tired brick complexes with rusty railings and kids' bikes thrown everywhere, and I just sat there in the silence. Then my phone buzzed again. This time it was Marcus. The text said, "I left my socket wrench in your trunk. I'll come get it when you're ready to talk." I stared at those words until they got all blurry. Lord knows I wanted to text him back. Wanted to tell him I was sorry, that I was scared, that every man before him had left, and I'd learned to leave first before the hurt could catch up to me. But my fingers wouldn't move. I grabbed my purse and walked up those stairs to my 2nd floor apartment where my babies were with my mama for the afternoon. The silence in that empty apartment was so loud it was screaming at me. I unlocked the door and stepped inside. And that's when I saw it sitting on my kitchen counter, a brand new car manual wrapped in a red bow with a note taped to the front. The handwriting was Marcus's, neat and steady, like everything that man did. It said, "You're worth the wait, even if you don't believe it yet, baby." I dropped my purse right there, dropped my keys, dropped straight to my knees in that kitchen and cried until my ribs hurt, because Marcus Washington hadn't just been fixing my car every Sunday. He'd been trying to fix all the broken parts of me I didn't even know were there, and I'd been too blind and too scared to see it. Chapter 2, 8 months earlier. Now let me take you back to where this whole thing started, because every good love story needs a beginning, and mine started with a dead car and a whole lot of attitude. It was a Tuesday morning in October, right in the middle of rush hour on Cascade Road. My engine made this sound like something was dying under my hood, then just gave up completely. Left me stranded in the left lane with cars honking behind me like I'd personally chosen that exact moment to ruin everybody's morning commute. I threw on my hazards, grabbed my phone, and called my brother Derek first. No answer. Of course not. Then I thought about calling my ex-husband Tony, but that man had made it crystal clear when he walked out that my problems weren't his problems anymore. My best friend Shanice was at work and couldn't leave, so there I was, sitting in my dead car, watching the sun come up over Atlanta, feeling like the universe had decided that today was the day to remind me I was doing this life thing all by myself. That's when I saw this white Ford pickup pull up behind me with its hazards on. Out stepped this man, tall, broad-shouldered, wearing a flannel shirt and work boots that had definitely seen better days. He was light-skinned with freckles across his nose and a fade so clean it looked like he'd just stepped out of the barbershop that morning. He walked up to my window with this smile that was way too kind for 8 a.m. traffic and knocked on my glass real gentle-like. I rolled that window down halfway because I wasn't born yesterday, and I already had my "I don't need your help" speech ready to go. But he spoke first. "Your engine sounds like it's throwing a rod," he said in this deep, steady voice. "You got AAA?" I shook my head no. "Then let me push you to that gas station up there. I'm Marcus. I work at the shop 2 blocks over. I'll take a look for free, see what's going on." Now, I wanted to say no. Lord knows I did. But my car was dead. My kids needed picking up from school in 8 hours, and pride don't pay for tow trucks. So I let him push my car to the Chevron station while I steered. And when we got there, he popped that hood without even asking permission and started poking around like he'd been working on my car his whole life. I stood next to him with my arms crossed tight, watching him check hoses and belts and things I didn't have names for. He didn't talk much, just hummed under his breath while he worked. And something about that made me relax just a little bit. See, most men who helped me wanted something in return. Wanted me to smile a certain way or bat my eyes or owe them a favor. But Marcus, he just worked. After about 20 minutes, he stood up and wiped his hands on this rag he'd pulled from his pocket. "Your timing belt snapped," he said. "That's why she died on you. It's going to cost about $800 to fix, maybe more depending on what else got damaged when it broke. You got a shop you trust?" Child, I almost laughed out loud. $800? I didn't even have $80. I shook my head and looked away because I didn't want this stranger seeing my eyes get all wet. "I'll figure it out," I said, but my voice cracked on those last words and gave me away. Marcus tilted his head, studying me like he could see right through all them walls I'd built up. "Oh, what if I fix it?" he asked. "I got access to parts through my shop. I can do it on my day off. Won't charge you for labor. You just cover the parts cost, maybe $400. I can break it into payments if you need to." I looked at him like he'd just started speaking Chinese or something. "Why would you do that?" I asked him straight up. Marcus shrugged like it wasn't no big deal. "Because your check engine light's been on so long it's probably part of the dashboard by now, and you got a car. seat in the back, which means you got kids depending on you. I know what that's like. My mama raised me and my sisters all by herself, so let me help. Now listen, I didn't trust Easy. Still don't, if I'm being honest. I didn't trust men who smiled too much or offered help that sounded too good to be true. But something in Marcus's eyes made me say yes. Maybe it was desperation. Maybe it was the way he said, "Let me help," like it wasn't some heavy burden he was carrying. So I gave him my number, and he promised to call me that evening with a plan. Then he gave me a ride home in his pickup truck that smelled like leather and fresh coffee. And when he dropped me off in front of my building, he didn't try to come inside or keep the conversation going like men usually do. He just said, "I'll have your car running by Sunday," and drove away just like that. I stood on that sidewalk watching his taillights disappear down the street, wondering if I just met the kind of man my mama used to pray would show up in my life, or if I just made the kind of mistake I'd been spending the last 3 years trying to avoid. I guess I'd find out come Sunday. Chapter 3, The First Fix. Sunday came around slow and heavy. One of them autumn mornings where the air smells like rain that's thinking about falling but hasn't made up its mind yet. I woke up at 6 a.m. even though I didn't have to. My stomach all tight with nerves I didn't want to admit were there. My babies, Amara and Jalen, were still knocked out in the room they shared, all curled up under blankets covered in cartoon characters. I made myself some coffee in the kitchen and stood at that window, staring at the empty parking lot, wondering if Marcus was really going to show up, or if this was just another man saying things he didn't mean. By noon, I'd convinced myself he wasn't coming. By 1:30, I'd stop checking my phone every 5 minutes. Then at 2 p.m. exactly, and I mean exactly, I heard the rumble of a truck engine outside. When I looked out that window, there was Marcus's white Ford pickup parked right next to my dead Honda, like a promise somebody actually kept. I grabbed my jacket and went downstairs, trying to look like I hadn't been waiting by that window like some lovesick teenager. Marcus was already at the hood of my car with his toolbox open beside him, wearing that same flannel shirt from Tuesday and jeans with grease stains on the knees. He looked up when I walked over and gave me that same easy smile, the kind that didn't ask for nothing back. "Morning," he said, even though it was afternoon. "I brought the timing belt and a few other parts just in case. This should take me a few hours. You don't gotta stay out here if you don't want to. I know what I'm doing." I crossed my arms and leaned against the brick wall of my building. "I'll stay," I told him, "just in case you out here trying to steal my catalytic converter." Marcus laughed, this warm, real laugh that came from his belly, and got to work. I watched him from a distance, the way his hands moved with so much confidence, the way he didn't rush or get frustrated when something didn't fit right the first time. An hour passed, then 2. Marcus didn't complain once, didn't check his phone every 5 minutes or act like he had somewhere better to be. He just worked, humming that same low tune I'd heard at the gas station, and every now and then he'd explain what he was doing even though I hadn't asked. "See this belt here? It controls your engine timing. When it snaps, your pistons and valves crash into each other like a car accident happening inside your engine. That's why your car died so sudden. But we caught it early enough so you're lucky. No major damage." I nodded like I understood what he was talking about. But really, I was just listening to the sound of his voice, the way it made everything sound like it could be fixed. Around 4 p.m., my kids came downstairs, curious about the man working on their mama's car. Amara was 7 years old, bold and loud, with twists in her hair that I'd spent a whole hour doing the night before. Jalen was 5, quiet and shy, always hiding behind his sister's shoulder. Marcus looked up when he saw them and smiled, wiping his hands on his jeans. "Y'all must be the bosses around here," he said to them. Amara giggled like it was the funniest thing she'd ever heard. I'm Amara. That's Jalen. He don't talk much. Are you my mama's boyfriend? Child, my face went hot as fire. Amara, go back upstairs, I said, but Marcus just laughed it off. Nah, I'm just the car guy, he said, but maybe one day I'll be cool enough to be a friend. Y'all like cars? Jalen nodded real slow, stepping out from behind his sister's shoulder. Marcus waved him over. Come here, little man. Let me show you something. He pointed under that hood and explained in simple words what each part did, and Jalen listened like Marcus was teaching him the secrets of the whole universe. Amara got bored after about 2 minutes and went back inside, but Jalen stayed right there asking questions in his little voice, and Marcus answered every single one like they mattered more than anything. I watched from that wall with something warm and unfamiliar spreading through my chest. See, I'd spent the last 3 years keeping men far away from my babies, protecting them from disappointment and broken promises and all the hurt that comes with trusting the wrong person. But Marcus didn't feel like a threat. He felt like something my kids had been missing without even knowing it. By 5 p.m., the car was fixed. Marcus closed that hood, started up the engine, and it purred like it was brand new. He turned to me with grease all over his hands and satisfaction in his eyes. She's good to go, he said. I'll text you my Venmo for the parts. No rush. Pay me whenever you can. I wanted to say thank you, but them words felt too small for what he'd just done. So instead I said, you want some water? Or sweet tea? I got both upstairs. Marcus wiped his hands on a rag and shook his head. I'm good, but I'll take you up on that tea next time. Next time. Like he was planning to come back, like this wasn't just some one-time thing. I nodded, my throat all tight, and watched him pack up his tools and drive away. And when his truck disappeared around that corner, I stood there in the parking lot with my kids in my running car, wondering if maybe, just maybe, I'd been wrong about good men. Maybe they still existed after all. Maybe one had just fixed my car. Chapter 4, Walls and Sundays. So Marcus came back the next Sunday, and the Sunday after that, and the one after that too. Before I knew it, it became this routine I didn't ask for, but couldn't bring myself to stop. Every Sunday at 2 p.m. sharp, his white pickup would pull into that parking lot, and he'd find something on my car that needed attention. A squeaky belt here, low brake fluid there, a headlight that was starting to dim. Sometimes I wondered if he was making up problems just to have a reason to come back, but I never asked because part of me didn't want to know the answer. Part of me liked the predictability of it all, the way Marcus showed up like clockwork, steady as Sunday morning church service. My kids started waiting by that window for him, Amara with all her loud questions and Jalen with his quiet curiosity, and Marcus treated them like they actually mattered, like their questions weren't interruptions, but invitations into something important. But me, I kept my distance. I'd bring him sweet tea in a plastic cup and sit on those stairs while he worked, close enough to be polite, but far enough away to keep my walls up. See, I'd learned a long time ago that men who seemed too good were usually just real good at hiding their flaws. My ex-husband, Tony, had been charming at first too, bringing me flowers and making promises that sounded like forever and there's the end of the day. Then forever turned into 2 years of cheating, lies, and a divorce that left me with 2 kids and a heart that didn't trust nobody no more. So when Marcus smiled at me, I didn't smile back too wide. When he made jokes, I laughed just enough to be polite. And when he asked me personal questions, I gave him answers that didn't reveal nothing real about who I was. I was protecting myself, you understand? Protecting my kids, protecting this life I'd built brick by brick from the ruins of the one that fell apart. By the 4th Sunday, Marcus started to notice what I was doing. He was under my car replacing the oil filter when he said, "You know, you don't got to keep me at arm's length like this. I'm not going to bite." I looked up from my phone, caught off guard. "I'm not keeping you anywhere," I said. "You're the one who keeps coming back." Marcus slid out from under that car, his face all streaked with oil, his eyes steady on mine. Yeah, I do keep coming back because I like being here. I like your kids. I like the way you make sweet tea with way too much sugar. And I like you, even though you act like letting somebody help you is the worst thing in the world. My chest got all tight when he said that. I wanted to snap back, tell him he didn't know me, but the truth was, he was starting to. And that scared me more than anything else. I don't need saving, I said real quiet. No, good, Marcus replied, standing up and wiping his hands. Because I'm not here to save you. I'm here because I want to be. That night after Marcus left and my babies were tucked in bed, I sat on my couch, staring at the ceiling, replaying his words over and over in my head. I'm here because I want to be. Nobody had ever said nothing like that to me before in my whole life. Every relationship I'd ever had was built on need. You see what I'm saying? Tony needed a wife to look good in front of his family. My ex-boyfriend after that needed someone to pay half the rent. Even my friendships sometimes felt like everybody was keeping score of who did what for who, but Marcus didn't seem to be keeping no score at all. He just kept showing up, asking for nothing, giving everything, and I didn't know what to do with that kind of goodness. Didn't know how to let someone in without standing there waiting for the moment they'd leave. So I did what I always did when things got too real. I built them walls even higher. I stopped texting him during the week, stopped asking him to stay for dinner after he finished working on my car, stopped letting my kids beg him to play basketball with them in the courtyard. But Marcus, that man didn't stop coming. Every Sunday at 2 p.m., there he was. And every Sunday, my walls cracked just a little bit more, even though I'd never admitted out loud. By the 8th Sunday, Amara asked me the question I'd been avoiding in my own head. Mama, why don't you like Mr. Marcus? He's nice. We were sitting at the kitchen table eating spaghetti. Jalen quietly twirling his fork, Amara staring at me with them big brown eyes that saw way too much for a 7-year-old. I like him just fine, I said, not looking up from my plate. Then how come you never smile at him? Amara pressed. You smile at everybody else. You even smiled at the mailman last week. I put my fork down, my throat getting all tight. It's complicated, baby. That's what grown folks say when they scared, Amara said, way too wise for her age. And right then I realized my daughter was absolutely right. I was scared. Scared of being hurt again. Scared of my kids getting attached to someone who might just up and leave. Scared of wanting something good because every single time I'd wanted something good before, it had turned to dust in my hands. So I kept Marcus at that distance, even as he kept showing up, even as he kept fixing my car and my kids' broken toys and that leaky faucet in my kitchen I'd mentioned just one time in passing, even as he kept proving Sunday after Sunday that maybe he was actually the kind of man who stayed. Chapter 5, The Breaking Point. It was the 11th Sunday when everything changed, and I mean everything. Marcus showed up like always with his toolbox in hand, but this time something was different. His smile didn't reach his eyes the way it usually did. I noticed it right away, the way his shoulders were tighter, the way he didn't hum while he worked on my car. I brought him his sweet tea and sat on those stairs like I always did, watching him replace my brake pads in this heavy silence. The November air was crisp, carrying the smell of somebody's Sunday barbecue from a few buildings over, but that usual ease between us was just gone. After about an hour of this quiet, Marcus finally spoke up, his voice low and careful like he was choosing every word. Nora, can I ask you something, Eve? He said. I looked up from my phone, my stomach already tying itself in knots. If what? I said, probably sharper than I meant to. Marcus straightened up, wiping his hands on that rag he always carried, and turned to face me full on. Why you let me keep coming here if you don't really want me around? The question hit me like somebody had thrown cold water in my face. I never said I don't want you around. I shot back, but my voice came out all defensive and sharp. You don't gotta say it, Marcus replied, and his eyes looked tired in a way I'd never seen before. I can feel it, Nora. Every single time I try to get close to you, you step back. Every time I try to talk to you like a real person and not just the guy who fixes your car, you shut down on me. I've been coming here for almost 3 months now. 3 whole months of showing up, helping out, trying to prove to you that I'm not like whoever hurt you before, but you won't even give me a chance. I stood up then, my chest getting tight with anger I didn't even know how to name. You don't know what I've been through, I said, and I could hear my voice rising. You don't know what it's like to trust somebody just for them to walk right out on you and your kids. You don't get to come here and act like I owe you something just because you fixed my car a few times. Marcus took a step back and I saw his jaw get tight. I never once said you owed me nothing, Nora. I just want you to see me, really see me. Not as some project or some man you got to keep at arm's length because you're scared. I see you. I see how hard you work every single day. I see how you put your kids first no matter what. I see how you carry everything on your shoulders and don't ask for help because you're scared to need anybody. I see all that, but you won't let me in. You won't even try. The words just hung there between us, heavy and true as the gospel. I felt tears burning behind my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. Maybe I don't let you in because I already know how this story ends, I said, and my voice was breaking out. It always ends the same way, Marcus. You'll get tired of trying so hard. You'll realize I got too much baggage. You'll meet somebody easier, somebody who don't got 2 kids and a broke down car and a heart that's been stomped on more times than I can count, and then you'll leave. So why should I let you in just to stand there and watch you walk out? Marcus stared at me for what felt like forever, and I saw something crack in his expression, something that looked an awful lot like hurt. You really think that's who I am? He asked, so quiet I almost didn't hear him. You think I've been showing up here every single Sunday for 3 months because I'm planning to leave you? Nora, I ain't your ex-husband. I ain't them other dudes who hurt you before. I'm me, and I'm here because I want to be here. But I can't keep fighting for somebody who won't fight for us too. I just can't do it no more. The silence that came after that was so thick you could have cut it with a knife. I wanted to say something, anything, but the words were all stuck in my throat, tangled up with fear and pride and all them scars I've been carrying around for years. Marcus shook his head, closed up his toolbox, and stood up. I'm done with your breaks, he said, and his voice was flat now, empty. Car should be good for a while. You got my number if you need anything. He picked up that toolbox and started walking toward his truck, and I just stood there watching him go, my heart pounding so hard in my chest I thought it might break right through my ribs. I wanted to call out to him, wanted to tell him to wait, to come back, to let me explain, but my feet wouldn't move, my mouth wouldn't open, and then Marcus stopped right there at his truck, his hand on the door handle, and he turned back to look at me one more time. I love you, Nora, he said, and his voice was steady and sure as anything I'd ever heard. I've been in love with you since the second Sunday I came here, when you brought me that sweet tea and told me your daughter wants to be a scientist when she grows up. I love how strong you are. I love how you protect your kids like a lioness. I love how you won't settle for less than you deserve, even if that means pushing me away. I love you, girl, but I can't keep showing up every Sunday if you won't ever let me stay. Then he got in that truck and drove away, and I stood in that parking lot with my heart cracked wide open, watching his taillights disappear down the street. I sank down onto those stairs with my whole body shaking and let myself cry for the first time in 3 years. Not because Marcus left, but because he just told me the one thing I'd been too scared to believe, that somebody could love me, all my baggage, all my broken pieces, all of it, and still choose to stay. And now I had to decide if I was brave enough to let him. Chapter 6, the week that followed. Monday came around and slapped me right in the face, let me tell you. I woke up with eyes so swollen I could barely see, and my chest felt like somebody had reached in and hollowed it out with a spoon. I went. Through all the motions, getting Amara and Jalen ready for school, packing lunches I didn't remember making, driving them in my newly fixed car that still smelled like Marcus and his work. Every stoplight, every turn, every street corner reminded me of that man. I dropped the babies off and headed to the hospital where I've been working as a medical assistant for 5 years, smiling at patients and taking vitals while my mind kept playing Marcus's words on repeat like a broken record. I love you, Noah. Nobody had said them words to me in so long I'd forgotten what they even felt like. And now that somebody had somebody good and real and steady as Sunday morning, I'd just frozen up like a fool and let him walk away without saying nothing back. My coworker Shanice noticed something was wrong the second she saw me. "Girl, what's wrong with you?" she asked during lunch break, sitting across from me in the break room. "You look like somebody died." I stared down at my sandwich. Couldn't even bring myself to eat it. "Marcus told me he loves me," I said, real quiet. Shanice's eyes went wide as dinner plates. "The car guy, that fine man who been showing up every Sunday looking at you like you hung the moon and stars?" I nodded. "And what did you say back to him?" Shanice pressed, leaning forward. Nothing, y'all," I admitted, feeling ashamed just saying it out loud. "I just stood there like a statue, and then he left." Shanice put her fork down hard and leaned across the table, giving me the kind of tough love only a best friend can give you. "Nora Marie Thompson, are you completely out of your mind? That man has been showing up for you and your babies for 3 solid months. 3 months of fixing your car, playing with your kids, treating you like you actually matter in this world. And when he finally gets up the courage to tell you how he feels, you just freeze up. Baby, I know Tony hurt you bad. I know he made you scared to trust anybody again, but you can't let one sorry excuse for a man ruin your chance at finding a good one." I felt them tears starting to burn again. "But what if he changes his mind about me, Shanice?" I whispered. "What if he wakes up one day and realizes I'm too much, too broken?" Shanice reached across that table and grabbed my hand tight. "Now you listen to me, and you listen good. You are not too much for nobody. You are a whole entire woman who survived a divorce, raised 2 beautiful kids all by yourself, worked full-time through it all, and kept your head up high through every bit of it. If Marcus can't handle all that, then he don't deserve you in the first place. But from everything you've been telling me these past few months, that man been handling it just fine. He been showing up, and you're the one pushing him away." Them words hit me like a Sunday morning sermon I wasn't ready to hear, but needed to anyway. I spent the rest of that day thinking about what Shanice said about all the ways I've been protecting myself, but really just hurting myself at the same time. By the time I picked up my kids from school, I'd made up my mind. I was going to call Marcus, apologize for real, tell him I was scared, but I was willing to try. But when I pulled out my phone that night after I put the babies to bed, my fingers just froze right over his name in my contacts. What if he didn't answer? What if he'd already moved on to somebody easier? What if I'd waited too long and missed my chance? Tuesday turned into Wednesday, and I still hadn't called. Wednesday turned into Thursday, and my phone just stayed silent. Marcus didn't text me, didn't call, didn't show up at my door, and that's when I realized I'd gotten so used to him being there that his absence felt like I was missing a whole limb from my body. By Friday, Amara noticed something was wrong. "Where's Mr. Marcus, Mama?" she asked at dinner, pushing her chicken around on her plate. "He didn't come last Sunday like he always does." My throat got all tight. "He's probably just busy, baby," I said. But even I didn't believe them words coming out my mouth. "Is he mad at you?" Amara asked, them big brown eyes seeing right through me. I couldn't lie to my own daughter. I think I hurt his feelings pretty bad," I admitted, quiet as a whisper. Amara frowned at me. "Then you should say you're sorry. That's what you always tell me to do when I hurt Jalen's feelings. Out of the mouths of babes, I tell you." That night, I sat on my couch with my phone in my hand, staring at Marcus's contact like it was going to bite me. I typed out a message and deleted it 3 whole times before I finally got brave enough to press send. "Can we talk?" The response came back 5 minutes later, and I swear my heart nearly stopped beating. "I'm free tomorrow. Can I come by?" I wrote back so fast I almost dropped my phone. "Yes." 2 p.m. Marcus sent back a thumbs up emoji, and I put that phone down with my hands shaking like leaves in the wind. Saturday moved slower than any day in my entire life, I'm telling you. I cleaned my apartment twice from top to bottom, put on 3 different outfits before I finally settled on jeans and a simple sweater. Tried to figure out exactly what I was going to say to this man. By 1:45 p.m., I was sitting on my couch with my heart in my throat, watching that clock tick toward 2 like it was moving through molasses. At exactly 2 p.m., because that man was always on time, I heard the rumble of his truck outside. I went to the window and saw Marcus getting out, wearing his usual flannel and jeans, his face looking like I couldn't read it at all. I opened that door before he could even knock, and we just stood there staring at each other with the cold November air between us. "Hey," Marcus said soft. "Hey," I said back. And then, before I could overthink it and talk myself out of it, I said the words I should have said a whole week ago. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry I froze up on you. I'm sorry I pushed you away. And I'm sorry it took me this long to tell you that I love you too." Marcus's eyes went wide, and I saw a hope flicker across his face like a little flame catching fire. "Say that again," he said, his voice all rough with emotion. "I love you, Marcus Washington," I repeated, and now the tears were streaming down my face. I've been scared to say it because I'm terrified you're gonna leave just like everybody else did, but I love you, and I don't want to push you away no more. I'm tired of being scared. Marcus stepped forward, closing that distance between us, and pulled me right into his arms. And for the first time in 3 whole years, I let myself be held by a man. Let myself believe that maybe, just maybe, I'd found somebody who wasn't going nowhere. Chapter 7, Learning to Let Go Now. The weeks after that conversation felt like I was learning how to walk all over again, if that makes any sense. See, I'd spent so many years holding everything together on my own that letting Marcus into my life felt like stepping off a cliff without knowing if there was any ground down there to catch me. But Marcus was patient with me, steady as he'd always been, showing me day by day through his actions that he meant every single word he'd said. He started coming over during the week now, not just on Sundays anymore. He'd stop by after work with takeout from that Chinese spot Amara loved so much. Or he'd bring superhero movies for Jalen, who was obsessed with them. He didn't push me to open up faster than I was ready to, but he was just there, solid and present, proving with everything he did that he wasn't going anywhere. And slowly but surely, I started to actually believe him. So I told him about Tony, about all the cheating and the lies, and the way my ex-husband had made me feel like I wasn't ever going to be enough for nobody. Marcus just listened without interrupting me once, without trying to fix nothing, just holding my hand while I cried through memories I'd buried so deep I thought they'd never come back up. He told me about his own past too, and that meant the world to me. Told me about his daddy, who'd walked out when he was just 8 years old, about how he'd helped raise his younger sisters while his mama worked 2 jobs just to keep a roof over their heads, about the woman he'd almost married in his 20s who left him for some man with more money and bigger dreams. "I get why you're scared, Nora," he said one night while we sat on my couch after the kids had gone to sleep. "I've been exactly where you are. But I learned something the hard way that I wish somebody had told me years ago. You can't let fear keep you from something real just because something fake hurt you before. Not everybody gonna do you like Tony did. Not everybody's gonna leave you high and dry." I looked at this man who'd fixed my car and somehow ended up fixing my heart too, without me even asking him to. And I felt something shift deep inside my chest. I was tired, y'all. tired of being scared all the time. Tired of protecting myself from pain by just avoiding love altogether. So I leaned in and kissed him, soft and slow, and Marcus kissed me back like I was something precious, something worth waiting for all this time. By December, we were officially together, like really together, and I felt like a completely different person. Not because Marcus changed me, mind you, but because he made space for me to change myself. I smiled more than I had in years, laughed more, let myself imagine a future that didn't involve me doing every single thing alone. My kids loved him too, and that mattered more to me than anything else in this world. Amara still called him Mr. Marcus, but treated him like he was already family, dragging him into her science projects and all them elaborate games she was always making up. Jalen, who barely talked to anybody outside our little family, started opening up around Marcus like a flower in the sunshine, asking him questions about cars and tools and how everything in the world worked. One Saturday afternoon, Marcus taught Jalen how to change a tire, and I watched from those stairs as my baby boy's whole face just lit up with pride when he tightened that last lug nut all by himself. "I did it, Mama. I did it," Jalen shouted, and Marcus gave him a high five like he'd just won the Super Bowl or something. I felt tears pricking at my eyes because this right here was what my kids had been missing without me even fully realizing it. A man who actually saw them, who made them feel capable and loved and important. But I'm going to be honest with you, it wasn't all easy sailing, you understand? My walls didn't just come tumbling down overnight like some fairy tale. There were still moments when I'd catch myself pulling away from Marcus. Times when he'd say something too sweet and I'd deflect with a joke or change the subject real quick. There were nights when I'd lie awake in the dark wondering when that other shoe was finally gonna drop. When he'd wake up one morning and realize I wasn't worth all this effort he was putting in. One night in the middle of December, Marcus finally called me out on it. We were over at his apartment, a small one-bedroom place in Midtown with car parts scattered all across the floor and a couch that had definitely seen better days. I'd been quiet all evening, lost up in my own head like I do sometimes, and Marcus finally put down the controller to that video game he was playing and turned to look at me real serious. "What's going on in that head of yours?" he asked me. "Nothing," I said automatically, which was my go-to answer. "Nora, don't do that to me," Marcus said, and his voice was gentle but firm at the same time. "Don't shut me out like this. Talk to me for real." I looked at him. This man who was so patient with me, it almost hurt sometimes, and I felt them walls trying to go right back up like they always did. But this time, I fought against them with everything I had. "I keep waiting for you to leave," I admitted, and my voice came out so small I barely recognized it. "I keep waiting for you to wake up one day and realize this whole thing is too hard, that I'm too hard, too broken, too much work." Marcus moved closer to me on that couch and took both my hands in his. "Baby, listen to me real good right now. I know you've been hurt before. I know Tony made you feel like you wasn't enough just the way you are, but I'm not him. You hear me? I see you. I see the real you, the strong you who don't take no mess from nobody, the scared you who's just trying to protect her heart, the you that makes the best sweet tea I ever had in my life, and the you that sings off key in the car without even caring. I see all of it, every single part, and I'm still right here. I'm gonna keep being right here, so you can stop waiting for me to leave, 'cause I ain't going nowhere. Not now, not ever." I felt them tears coming again, but this time they weren't sad tears at all. They were relief washing over me like a wave. Relief that I didn't have to carry everything all by myself anymore. Relief that somebody finally saw all of me, the good parts and the broken parts, and chose to stay anyway. I leaned into Marcus's chest and let myself be held. And for the first time in more years than I could count, I actually felt safe. Really, truly safe. Christmas came around faster than I expected. I didn't have much money saved up, but I wanted to do something real special for Marcus, something that would show him just how much he'd come to mean to me and my kids. I scraped together what I could and bought him a brand new socket, a wrench set, the expensive kind I'd seen him eyeing at the hardware store, but never buying for himself because he was always spending his money helping other people. Instead, I wrapped it up in red paper with my hands shaking the whole time and gave it to him on Christmas Eve. Marcus opened it real slow, and when he saw what was inside, his eyes went all soft in that way that made my heart squeeze. "Nora, you didn't have to do nothing like this," he started to say. "I wanted to," I interrupted him before he could finish. "You've been fixing my car for months now without asking for hardly nothing in return. Least I can do is make sure you got the right tools to do it with." Marcus pulled me into a hug so tight I could barely breathe, and he whispered right in my ear, "Best gift anybody ever gave me." We spent Christmas Day at my apartment with my babies, eating way too much food and watching Amara and Jalen play with all their new toys until they couldn't keep their eyes open no more. And when the kids finally went to bed that night, me and Marcus sat on the couch in the glow of them Christmas tree lights, with his arm around my shoulders and my head resting on his chest. "Thank you," I said, quiet into the peaceful darkness. "For what, baby?" Marcus asked. "For not giving up on me when I was trying so hard to push you away," I replied. Marcus kissed the top of my head and said just 2 words, "Never will." Chapter 8. When the Past Shows Up January brought snow to Atlanta, rare as hen's teeth and completely unexpected, covering the whole city in this blanket of white that made everything look clean and new for about 5 minutes before it turned to slush. I was at work at the hospital when my phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't have saved no more. I almost ignored it completely, but something made me open it up anyway. The message was short, and it hit me right in the gut. "This is Tony. We need to talk about the kids." My hands went cold as ice right there at my desk. I hadn't heard a single word from my ex-husband in over a whole year, not since he'd moved down to Florida with his new girlfriend and just stopped paying child support like he'd stopped caring about his own children. I stared at that message with my heart pounding in my chest, and all them old feelings of anger and hurt came rushing back like a flood I couldn't hold back. Who did Tony think he was, just showing up in my life whenever he felt like it? He didn't get to pretend he cared about Amara and Jalen when he'd spent the last year acting like they didn't even exist. I didn't respond to him right away. Just put my phone away and tried my best to focus on my work. But that message sat in my mind all day long like a storm cloud that wouldn't move. That night, I told Marcus about it. We were at my apartment with the kids already asleep, sitting at my little kitchen table with mugs of tea getting cold between us. "He texted me today," I said, and I could hear how tight my voice sounded. "Tony said he wants to talk about the kids." I saw Marcus's jaw tighten right up. "What did you tell him?" he asked. "Nothing yet," I replied. "I don't even know what he wants from me after all this time. He'd been gone a whole entire year, Marcus. A year, and now he just pops up out of nowhere like he's got some kind of right to be in their lives." Marcus reached across that table and took my hand in his. "What do you want to do about it?" he asked me. I shook my head, feeling frustrated tears burning behind my eyes. "I don't know what I want. Part of me wants to tell him to go straight to hell and never contact us again. But the other part of me knows that Amara and Jalen might actually want to see their daddy, even if he don't deserve it one bit. I just don't want them to get hurt all over again. They've been through enough already, you know." Marcus squeezed my hand. "Whatever you decide to do, I got your back through all of it, but don't let him make you feel like you got to do nothing you don't want to do. You've been raising them kids by yourself this whole time. You the one who shows up every single day, rain or shine, not him." I nodded, but that knot in my chest didn't loosen up none. I texted Tony back the next day, keeping it real short. "What do you want?" His response came about an hour later. "I want to see my kids. I'm in town for a few weeks. Let's meet up somewhere." I stared at that message, feeling torn between all this anger and something that felt dangerously close to hope. Maybe Tony had actually changed this time. Maybe he'd finally realized what he'd lost when he walked away from us. Or maybe, and this seemed more likely knowing Tony, he was just bored and looking for some way to ease his guilty conscience. Either way, I couldn't keep him away from Amara and Jalen forever. They deserved to make their own decisions about their daddy, even if it was going to break my heart to watch it all unfold. So I agreed to meet him at a park near my apartment on Saturday afternoon with the kids, just to see what he really wanted after all this time. Saturday came around cold and gray, the kind of day that matched my whole entire mood perfectly. I dressed the kids up in their warmest coats and drove to that park with my stomach tied up in knots the whole way there. Marcus had offered to come with me for support, but I told him no. This was something I had to do on my own, face to face with my past. Tony was already there when we pulled up, standing by them swings in a leather jacket that probably cost more than my whole month's rent. He looked exactly the same as I remembered, tall and handsome with that smile that used to make my knees weak, but now just made me feel tired and old. He waved when he saw us coming, and Amara and Jalen took off running toward him with their little faces all lit up with excitement that made my chest ache something terrible. "Daddy!" Amara shouted, throwing her whole self into his arms. Jalen hung back just a little bit, being more cautious like he always is, but Tony pulled him into a hug too, and I watched from a distance with my arms crossed over my chest and my heart feeling heavy as lead. This was the man I'd loved once upon a time, the man I'd married and promised forever to, the man who'd promised me forever right back and then delivered nothing but heartbreak instead. Tony walked over to me after a few minutes, leaving the kids playing on them swings. "Hey, Nora," he said in that smooth, easy voice like he hadn't just disappeared from our lives for a whole year. "You looking good, girl?" I didn't smile back at him. Not even a little bit. "What do you want, Tony?" I asked him straight up. He sighed and ran his hand over his fade. "Look, I know I messed up bad. I know I should have been around more for them, but I'm really trying to do better now. For real this time. I got a new job, got my whole life together finally. I want to be back in their lives again. For real this time, not like before." I felt anger flare up hot in my chest like a fire catching. "You've been saying that exact same thing since the divorce, Tony? And every single time you disappear on us again, I'm not going to let you hurt my babies again. I won't do it." Tony held up both his hands like he was surrendering. "I get it, Nora. I do. But they my kids too. I got rights as their father." "Rights?" My voice rose up sharp and dangerous. "You ain't paid a single dime of child support in over a year. You missed birthdays, you missed holidays, you missed everything that mattered. You don't get to stand here and talk to me about your rights." Tony's face got hard then. "I'm not here to fight with you. I'm here to see my children. And unless you got some kind of court order saying I can't, I'm gonna keep seeing them whether you like it or not." I stared at him, shaking with anger and feeling like I was being betrayed all over again by this man I'd wasted so many years of my life on. This was the man who'd made me believe that love was conditional, that I had to be perfect or I'd get left behind. And now here he was standing in front of me, acting like he was some kind of victim in all this. I wanted to scream at him, wanted to tell him everything I'd been holding inside for years and years. But Amara and Jalen were right there watching us, and I wouldn't let them see their mama fall apart. So I took a deep breath, steadied myself, and said real quiet but firm, "If you want to be in their lives, you got to prove it with your actions, not just your words. And if you hurt them even one more time, I swear on everything I love that I will make sure you never get another chance. You hear me?" Tony nodded, and I saw something like respect flicker in his eyes for just a second. "Fair enough, you'd say it," he said. Then he walked back over to the kids, and I stood there in that cold feeling like the whole ground had shifted under my feet, wondering how in the world I was going to protect my babies from the man who was supposed to love them the most. Chapter 9. The Storm. So Tony started showing up every weekend after that, taking Amara and Jalen to the movies, to the mall, to his hotel room where he was staying while he supposedly looked for an apartment. At first, my kids were absolutely thrilled, buzzing with excitement every single time he'd text to say he was coming to get them. But I saw them cracks forming right from the start. I saw the way Tony would promise to pick them up at 10 a.m. and then show up at 11:30 without so much as an explanation or apology. Saw the way he'd buy them expensive toys and clothes but forget to ask about their school or their friends or any of the things that actually mattered in their little lives. And I saw the way Amara started getting quieter and quieter as the weeks went by. The way Jalen's nightmares came back after we thought they were gone for good. The way my babies were being hurt all over again by a man who just didn't know how to be a real father to them. By the third week of February, I'd had absolutely enough. Tony was supposed to pick up the kids on Saturday morning at 10 a.m. like he'd promised them all week long. But by noon, he still hadn't showed up. I called him 5 times, and every single call went straight to voicemail. Amara sat by that window in her coat and shoes just waiting, and her little face got sadder with every minute that passed by. By 2 p.m., my heart was completely breaking watching my daughter trying so hard not to cry. I knelt down right there in front of her with my voice as gentle as I could make it. "Baby, I don't think Daddy's coming today," I had to tell her. Amara's bottom lip started trembling. "Yep, but he promised, Mama. He promised he'd take us to the aquarium." "I know, sweetheart. I know he did." I pulled my daughter into my arms and held her while she cried, and I felt rage boiling up in my chest so hot I thought I might explode. I grabbed my phone and texted Tony right then and there. "You broke their hearts again. Don't bother coming back this time." But Tony didn't respond, didn't call, didn't do nothing, just disappeared like smoke like he always did, leaving me there to pick up all the pieces of my children's broken hearts. Marcus came over that same evening without me even having to ask, bringing pizza and a brand new science kit for Amara and a superhero comic book for Jalen, doing what he always did, showing up exactly when it mattered most. He didn't ask a bunch of questions or try to make me talk about it. He just sat down on the floor with my kids, helping Amara build a volcano that actually erupted, and reading comics to Jalen in all these different funny voices that made my baby laugh until his belly hurt. And I stood there in my kitchen doorway watching this man who wasn't their biological father but acted more like a real daddy than Tony ever had in his whole life. And I felt something fierce and certain settle deep in my chest. Later that night, after both kids were finally asleep, me and Marcus sat on my couch in the dark. "I should have known better," I said quietly into the silence. Should have known Tony would pull something like this again. Marcus turned his whole body to look at me. "This ain't your fault, Nora, not even a little bit. You gave him a fair chance to step up and be a father. You did exactly what any good mama would do in your situation. He's the one who messed up, not you." "I just hate that my baby's got to go through this pain," I said, and my voice was cracking now. They deserve so much better than this." "They got better," Marcus said real firm, looking me straight in the eyes. "They got you, and if you let me, baby, they got me too. I ain't going nowhere." I looked at this man who'd shown up for me and my children over and over and over again without me even asking him to, and I felt tears spilling down my cheeks. "I don't know what I did to deserve you in my life," I whispered. Marcus pulled me close, wrapping them strong, steady arms around me. "You survived when it would have been easier to give up. You kept going when everything was falling apart. You loved your kids even when loving them was the hardest thing in the world. That's what you did, Nora, and that's everything." 2 days later, Tony finally bothered to text me back. Something came up. I'll make it up to them, I promise. I stared at that message on my phone screen and felt nothing but cold, clear certainty wash over me. I called him right then and there, and when he answered with that same casual voice, I didn't let him get a single word in edgewise. You're done, Tony. Completely done. You don't get to keep doing this to our children. You don't get to show up whenever it's convenient for you and disappear whenever it's not. You're either in their lives for real, every single day, consistent and present and actually there, or you're out completely. And since I know good and well you can't do the first one, you're out. Don't call us again. Tony started sputtering, trying to argue with me like he always did, but I hung up on him before he could finish whatever lies he was about to tell. I blocked his number right there. Blocked him on every single social media site I could think of. Called my lawyer the very next morning and told her to file for full custody with absolutely no visitation rights unless Tony could prove in court that he was actually stable and responsible. It was the hardest decision I'd ever made in my whole life, but it was also the right one. My kids deserve stability, deserve somebody who actually showed up when they said they would. And if Tony couldn't be that person, and he'd proven time and time again that he couldn't, then I was going to make sure my babies had people in their lives who could. That next Sunday, Marcus showed up at 2 p.m. exactly like he always did, even though there wasn't no car that needed fixing this time. He knocked on my door with that beautiful smile of his, holding a basketball in his hands. I heard there's some kids in here who need to shoot some hoops, he said with a wink. Amara and Jalen's faces just lit up like Christmas morning, and they ran to grab their coats while I stood in that doorway watching Marcus take my babies out to the courtyard. I watched him dribble that ball and make jokes that had them laughing so hard they could barely catch their breath. And that's when I realized something I should have known all along. Family ain't about blood running through your veins. It's about who shows up, who stays, who loves you even when loving you is hard and complicated and messy. And Marcus had been showing up every single Sunday for months and months now, fixing so much more than just my broke down car. He'd been fixing all the parts of my life I didn't even know were broken, one Sunday at a time. And maybe, just maybe, that's exactly what real love is supposed to look like. Marcus came back inside about an hour later with the kids, still outside playing with some neighbor kids who joined their game. He sat down next to me on that couch and found my hand with his. You okay? He asked me soft. I nodded and squeezed his hand back. Yep, I'm okay. Better than okay, actually. Marcus smiled that easy smile that had made me trust him from the very beginning. Good, because I've been thinking about something important. Thinking about what? I asked him. Marcus turned to face me fully, and his eyes got all serious. About us, about our future together, about how I don't want to spend another single Sunday without knowing for sure that we're building something real and permanent. My heart started pounding hard in my chest. What are you saying to me right now, Marcus? He reached into his pocket and pulled out this small black velvet box, and I swear my breath just stopped. I'm saying I love you. Nora Thompson, I love your kids like they're my own. I love this life we're building together one day at a time, and I don't want to wait no more to make it official. Will you marry me? I stared at that ring, at Marcus, at this man who'd fixed my car every single Sunday, and then somehow ended up fixing my whole entire heart. And I felt everything I'd been holding back for so long just break free. Yes, I whispered through my tears. Yes, 1,000 times yes. Marcus slipped that ring onto my finger, and I kissed him with everything I had in me, tasting the salt from my own tears, and finally, feeling like I'd found my forever. Chapter 10, the Sunday that changed everything. Now let me tell you about the wedding because it was perfect in all the ways that mattered. We kept it small and simple, held on a Sunday in late May at that same park where Tony had broken all his promises to our kids just a few months before. I wanted to take that space back, you understand? turn it into something beautiful instead of something painful? We had about 30 people there, just family and our closest friends, all sitting on folding chairs while this gospel singer I knew from church sang "His Eye is on the Sparrow" in a voice that could make angels weep. Amara was my flower girl, walking down that makeshift aisle with a basket full of roses, her twists all decorated with white ribbons that caught the sunlight just right. Jalen was our ring bearer, carrying them rings on a little satin pillow with his face so serious and concentrated, like he was carrying the weight of the world. And me, I walked down that aisle all by myself because I'd finally learned that I didn't need nobody to give me away. I was giving myself freely and completely to a man who'd proven over and over that he was worth it. Marcus stood up there at the altar in a navy blue suit, looking so handsome I could barely breathe, and when he saw me coming toward him, his eyes filled up with tears that he didn't even try to hide. My whole heart felt like it was gonna burst right out of my chest with a love I thought I'd never find in this lifetime. The vows we said were simple, but they meant everything. Marcus went first, and even though his hands were shaking something terrible, his voice came out steady and sure. "Nora, I promise to show up for you, not just on Sundays, but every single day for the rest of our lives. I promise to love you when it's easy and when it's hard. I promise to be the man your kids can count on, the man you can count on no matter what. I promise to fix what's broken and celebrate what's whole. I promise to see you, really see you for exactly who you are for the rest of my life." I was already crying before he even finished. And when it was my turn, I had to take a deep breath just to steady my voice. "Marcus, you came into my life when I didn't think I needed anybody at all. You fixed my car, but you did so much more than that. You fixed my belief that good men don't exist in this world. You fixed my fear that I'd never be loved the way I deserve to be loved. You fixed my heart when I thought it was too broken to ever be fixed. And I promise to spend the rest of my life showing you that you made the right choice choosing me and my kids. I love you more than words can say. And I'm never, ever letting you go." When we kissed, everybody there erupted in applause and cheers that echoed across that whole park. Amara and Jalen came running up to us, and Marcus scooped both of them up in his arms at the same time, hugging them so tight while I wiped my tears away and laughed with pure joy. This was my family now, my real family. This man who showed up when he said he would. These kids who'd been through hell and back but came out stronger. This life we were building together one Sunday at a time. The reception happened right there in my apartment complex courtyard, all decorated with string lights and folding tables covered in my mama's homemade cooking. There was fried chicken and collard greens and mac and cheese that would make you slap your grandmama, and sweet tea so good it ought to be illegal. Everybody ate and danced and celebrated like it was the best day of their whole lives. And for me, it absolutely was. I danced with Marcus under them twinkling string lights while Amara and Jalen ran around playing with all the other kids. And I felt lighter than I had felt in more years than I could count. Felt like I could finally breathe deep without nothing heavy sitting on my chest. Later that night, long after all the guests had gone home and my babies were tucked in their beds, sleeping like angels, me and Marcus sat on them stairs outside my apartment building, looking up at the stars scattered across the Atlanta sky. "You know what today is?" Marcus asked with his arm wrapped around my shoulders. "Our wedding day," I said with a smile I couldn't wipe off my face if I tried. "Nah, I mean what day of the week it is," Marcus said. "It's Sunday," I realized. Marcus grinned at me. "Sunday's our day, baby. Always has been, always will be. That's the day I met you, the day I fell in love with you, the day I kept showing up even when you were trying your hardest to push me away. It just felt right to make it official on a Sunday, you know." I leaned my head on his shoulder, feeling my heart so full I thought it might overflow. "I used to hate Sundays," I admitted to him, quietly. "Used to be the loneliest day of the whole week. Just me and my kids and the weight of everything I had to do all by myself. But you changed all that for me, Marcus. You made Sundays into the day I look forward to the most, the day I felt less alone in this world. Marcus kissed the top of my head so gentle. You were never alone, baby. You just needed somebody to remind you of that. We sat there in the quiet with the Atlanta skyline glowing in the distance, and I thought about how far I'd come from that woman I used to be. Thought about the me from 8 months ago, standing in that church parking lot with a broken down car and a broken down heart, convinced I'd never find real love again in this lifetime. And then I thought about the woman I was right now, married to a man who actually showed up, who actually stayed, who loved me and my kids like we were the most important thing in his whole world. I've been so scared to let him in at first, so terrified of being hurt again that I almost pushed away the best thing that ever happened to me. But Marcus had been patient with me, had proven over and over and over again that he wasn't going nowhere. And now, sitting on these stairs with a ring on my finger and a future full of Sundays stretching out ahead of us, I finally understood what real love was supposed to look like. It looked like a man with a toolbox and a kind smile and a heart big enough to love somebody else's kids like his own. It looked like showing up even when it's hard. It looked like fixing what's broken and staying around to make sure it don't break again. The next morning, I woke up early with sunlight streaming through the bedroom window of the apartment I now shared with Marcus as my husband. He was still sleeping peaceful beside me with his face relaxed and one arm thrown across my waist. I watched him for a long moment, this man who changed my entire life, and felt gratitude wash over me like a warm wave. I thought about Tony and all them other men before him who left me feeling like I wasn't enough, like I was too much trouble, like I was somehow broken beyond repair. And I realized something important. They'd all been teaching me a lesson I needed to learn. They'd been teaching me that I deserved more, that my kids deserved more, that love wasn't supposed to hurt or leave or make you feel small and worthless. Real love was supposed to show up on Sundays with a toolbox and calloused hands. Real love was supposed to stay even when the walls went up and the going got tough. Real love was supposed to, fix what was broken and celebrate what was whole and stick around through all of it. And that's exactly what Marcus had done for me and my babies. He'd fix my car every single Sunday for 8 months. And then slowly and surely, without me even realizing it was happening, he'd fix my heart too. I smiled, closed my eyes, and let myself fall back asleep knowing that when I woke up again, Marcus would still be right there beside me, because that's what he did. He stayed. And Lord knows that made all the difference in the world.